So I just did this whole thing and it only recorded this part of the screen because I didn't format it to the whole screen. But I can try this again. Okay, I'm going to show you how to build a small, simple room with some lighting and some props. Okay, so this is what you're going to see when you start it up. I'm running Fraps, so I'm not recording through it so it won't crash. But you're going to see this. Obviously, that was the first one. Looks pretty decent right there, if I do say so myself. So we're going to start a new one. Okay, so when you see this new one, you're gonna have all these possible uh, templates to go from. And when you choose any of these, it'll go ahead and generate the engine for you, give you a little base level to play around with, and you can do whatever in that base level, or you can just code it from scratch. But if you do code it from scratch, it'll still give you these engines where you can just start from basic code. So, but I'm gonna start with a blueprint because it's really easy, and first person because we're doing a little room, and I want to walk around in my little room. And that's all dependent on you guys. And I'm going to save this as club demonstration. Spelled it right. 2. Takes a little bit. Okay, stop. You can just pause the video as we go. Okay, so it's going to give you this little beginning level, and first off to move around, if you hold the right mouse button and you use WASD, you can move around like this. You just hold it down and you move around. You just move around in any angle. But if you were to hold the left trigger, you can only move around on your horizontal. But it's easier to move around on the same plane. If I were to click play right now, I can shoot these blocks of physics based on their size. So they don't all have the same physics until it moves. It's pretty simple. Press escape to escape. And I'm going to go over each of these as we move along, or at least I'll try to. Okay, so let's go open a new level. Let's just do a default. And we have just a simple floor. Very simple. We have our sun, and we have our atmospheric fog. You can see everything that's in the level right here. You can scroll through, and it'll give you everything. Here's your player start, obviously. So you can use this for like respawns and stuff if that's part of your game. And you have your sky sphere, which is all of this thing around us, which is like just your basic like horizon view that you would want in your game. So let's start off by making some very simple walls. So let's go to BSP. Let's bring in a box. And let's go over movement and rotation and scaling of boxes. So we have these arrows. So you have, this is the Y. This is the, oh no, this is the Z actually. So you have all of these over here on the left that you can also change. But if you want to change it more on the fly, you can change it here. So you have your Y, your X, and your Z. And you also have your sorry, I have to look, X and Z plane. So you can, well, I moved it in the X and Y, but you can move it in the X and the Z plane. You can move it in the Y and the Z plane. And you can move it in the X and the Y plane. So that's a lot of movement. But if you wanted to change how these movements scale when you're moving them, you can change that here. This also changes the snapping for the whole map. So if you can move it like about half a block. If you were to change it to 500, you move it a lot more. See how those change like to about a quarter the size of the floor? So if I wanted to move it there, I move it quite a distance away. Okay, so if you change this to rotation, this middle one right here is rotation. You can change the rotation. So this scales by about 10 degrees every time I turn it. So I can turn it to about 40 degrees. Whatever that is now, I think it's about 70. So if I change it back to 80, whatever. I don't care. I don't know my math. I'm just an engineer. I don't know my math. If I want to change the scaling, I can change it to 50 and I can get to 45. Perfect 45-degree angle. You can change this rotation in any direction. Just like that. That's very simple rotation. Let's change that back to 10. And this back to 10. And then you have your scaling. So this can change the whole scaling of the object. You can make it change by very little, make it change by a lot, keep it at 0.25 for the sake of like noticing it. You can change it in each direction, make it scale, and any direction you want to, pretty much the same way. You can make a really tall build, like just a simple building, and then just put a texture on it that makes it look like a building. You can change it and to make it, if you already have a perfect square, you can keep it a perfect square in any direction. You still have these same two plane sliders. Okay, so let's delete that. Let's bring in another box. I screwed with that one too much. Oops, I'm still on scale. Let's change that to 50 for right now. Let's bring in another box. So we have our box and we set our scale to 50. Let's switch to move. Sorry, I used the hotkey. The hotkeys are W, E, and R. They go across. So let's move it to the middle. And let's change the scale. So we have a thin wall. You know, thin walls are where it's at in Auburn. Hashtag apartment complexes. I can't get it. There we go. And let's change the size so that it's the perfect size for our wall, for our floor. Now let's give it some height. There you go. You have a simple wall. Now it's kind of big. Okay, so let's move it. If I could get the right hotkey. There you go. It's perfectly snapped onto our wall. It seems to be the right distance. So let's move it up a little bit. And you can see that it's about halfway up our wall. So let's move it down a little bit. Well, can't move it down a little bit. Let's change our scale. So this means we have to change our scale to 10. So if we change our scale, we can get it perfect. If I can get close. It's pretty much perfect. That is perfect. Sorry, I'm a little OCD when it comes to these walls. So to make another wall, we don't have to go through that whole process again. All we have to do is Control or Command C and B, and you just create another wall. So you have box brush 1, box brush 2. Probably should have named those walls, but that's okay. All you have to do is drag all the way over, and then bam, you get yourself a second wall. To do the floor, you can do the same thing. Oops, I didn't copy it. Control Z. Yeah, copy and paste. Move it up. There you go. You got yourself a little prism. Now to create the second wall, all you have to do is do the rotation that I showed you before. So Control C, Control V, and you switch to the rotation. You want to change the Z, that is 90 degrees. And you want to move it. So that it's just in the wall. And you want to move it back. Oops, let's stop moving it back. Move it back. So you have a box with a back. Now you see that split right there? You won't be able to see that once we build the lighting, which is what we're going to do right now. So to build the lighting, all you have to do is click Build. And you gotta let it build, and you see we have some more shadows right here. But it looks like our wall has a few slits in it. That's okay. All we have to do is change the scale. Let's make a little bit. We can change the scale back to 1. Just make it. Oh wait, I didn't change the scale to 1. I changed the snapping to 1. Move the scale back down. There. It's a little bit wider. It's okay. It's a demonstration. Let's change that back to 0.25. Now it messed up our lighting again, so let's build it. And there you go. Now it's pretty dark in here, so let's put a doorway on the other side to give us a little bit of light. So let's come to the screen. Go to subtract. The subtract is going to take away from anything that this intersects with. So if we go to there, it's obviously going to mess up our lighting a little bit. Let's move it into the wall. They have a little door. So let's move this to about to the middle, not really being exact with it. And if you move it down, it'll go down, but it won't go into the floor. So you see how it's a little bit below the floor? That's okay. Because you want it a little bit below the floor, but you don't want it like exactly below the floor. Or like you don't want it above the floor, because then you wouldn't be able to walk through it. You'd have to jump through all your doors. So let's change our scaling to make it actually look like a door. There you go. You got a perfectly flat door. Now if we were to play, it's too small. So it takes a lot of playtesting, obviously. So let's change our scaling. Let's make it a little bit wider. So if we play again, it's a little bit too short. But you can't get it right today. Oops. That should be high enough. There you go. Straight off. Alright. So our lighting's a little bit messed up, but that's okay, because we're about to add some more. So let's do some simple lighting. So we have this point light, right? Okay, so we added this point light, but it looks like it's just coming from the middle of the room. Let's add some props. Okay, right here, this is your content browser. This is where you go to get all your saved textures, props, anything else that you need to import into your game. So let's go to click this file here, starter content, and let's go to props. So you have this chair. Let's put this chair in here. This chair is not going to hold the light, but it's a chair. So let's move it by the light. So let's move it in the X and Y plane. There we go. So we have a little chair. So let's get a chair buddy out for him. Let's copy and paste another chair. Put it right there. And then you can move it. There you go. And let's get a little table out for everybody to sit at. There you go. Little table. And a little statue. There you go. Looking nice. But there's still a floating light. Like, where's this light coming from? We don't have anywhere for this light to come from. So let's grab a little lamp, a ceiling lamp. Let's put it right over the table. I'm guessing that's right over the table. Looks like it. Okay, so let's click our light. Put it right inside, not quite inside, our lamp. Like that. You see these previews? That means you haven't built it yet. So the lighting's not going to be entirely accurate. And this light's not entirely inside the thing either, but that's okay. It's pretty close. So, but when I build it, there's not going to be any lights up here. So let's put a wall lamp right here. It's not entirely on the wall. So let's rotate it. There you go. We got a wall. Okay, so we can have a directional light. That's not what I want. Is it a spotlight? It's a spotlight. So if we move our spotlight right over that light, it looks like it's a little bit lit up. If we really wanted it to stand out as a light, we could rotate it. So we can rotate it all the way up. So now it's shining up. And it's still not quite in there. Let's move it down. There you go. You have a little wall light. So let's build this and see how it looks. There you go. So you got a little wall light and you have this little table light that's lighting up your tables and your chairs and this nice statue that looks good with light going through it. All right, and say you want to be able to like walk through these chairs or something. You want to be able to shoot them and they move, let's say. So you come over here to this tab. This is your details tab, and each object in this game has a details tab. I don't exactly know everything through here, but it's a pretty basic tutorial. So let's say you add some simulate physics to this table. And say you're a sharpshooter, so you want to shoot this statue. If I can click the statue. So we added physics to the statue. So let's play it. See how that chair moves? Just like the blocks did? Why can't I move that? That's okay. There you go. Went flying. That's okay. But you see how that physics works? And here's our little beam light over here that's giving off a little bit of light. So that's a pretty basic tutorial on the light right there. So, but this room still looks pretty bland, so let's add some textures to it. So let's go back to our content browser. Let's go to textures. So we have all these different textures, each used for everything. You have your chair texture. If you want the chair texture all over the room, you can have that if you want it. You have like dust particle textures, explosion textures, fire, whatever textures. You have all these different textures. You have grass, you have stone, you have all these different ones. And you can just drag and drop. It takes a little bit because it applies it to the whole thing. So we have a little grimy room here to shoot things and interrogate people, it looks like. Really grimy walls. All this grimy room. Absolutely disgusting room. Let's put it on the ceiling. It looks better on the ceiling. See? There you go. Looking better already. Alright. So that's a very simple tutorial on how to build a room.